Hey, good morning, everybody. How you doing on this post runoff day? Uh, what epic thing that was, huh? Well, now we turn our sights back to matters such as Howard Terminal and why the City of Oakland Howard Terminal Ballpark Development Agreement Flaw, or this one I'm about to point out to you, has been holding up this project. Now, the City of Oakland is claiming that it is close to a development agreement with the Oakland A's for the Howard Terminal Ballpark Project. But there are a couple of problems, folks. First, the ballpark drawings themselves are still not complete. That fact was as much addressed in the recent lawsuit by the East Oakland Stadium Alliance as anything else. But that fact holds up the completion of the City of Oakland Howard Terminal Development Agreement calls for, but that fact holds up the completion of the City of Oakland Howard Terminal Development Agreement, which calls for completed ballpark drawings. And those documents are not ready. And that means the document itself, the development agreement, is not even close to being done. And then there's a problem with community benefits. Let me explain something, folks, because I've had conversations with a number of people about this sidebar, if you will. And among lay people, there's this idea that, wait, there's these concept drawings. No. When we refer to drawings in a development agreement, we mean the actual construction drawings that will lead to the building of the ballpark. That's what we mean. That's what we mean. And a description by plot of where the buildings are going to go that will comprise the $12 billion of total build out the A's say they want to build. Now, we don't need to really complete the development agreement, the exact drawings for all the buildings, but we do need them for the ballpark because it's for the ballpark that the athletics are requesting the infrastructure changes primarily. You see, we know the athletics don't have enough money to build everything at once, totaling $12 billion in development. That comes over time with different developers. In fact, the athletics would love to have a development partner in Howard Terminal, and we'll have one in Las Vegas. So the reason for that is you want an additional private financing load to be shared. It's like, for example, the Raiders situation in Las Vegas. The Raiders started out with Las Vegas Sands, directed by the late Sheldon Adelson, and Majestic with Craig Cavalier, as well as the Raiders, Mark Davis. And remember, for a time there was David Beckham who stepped in. Well, that was the original team, and then Adelson came forward worth $30 billion and said, I can replace Cavalier. I'd love to know how that came about. I still don't know what conversations led to that happening, but it did happen. And so it whittled down to just the Raiders and Las Vegas Sands, okay? But the bottom line is the Raiders had a development partner. And the ringleader of all this, if you will, was the state of Nevada, and in particular Clark County, through the Governor Brian Sandoval's Southern Nevada Tourism Infrastructure Committee. Okay, so the point I'm making is that, by contrast, Oakland has not set up that kind of situation. There's no official organization that's charged with focusing exclusively on Howard Terminal, which is a big problem. And there's been no effort to find a development partner by releasing an a request for proposal, for example. Okay, I can go on and on and on, but I digress. All right. So that developer would help finance the rest of the buildings over time. But the concern right now is the ballpark and the events center, those two. And really, the city should be pegging enough private financing to equal $2 billion in base year assessed value so they can realize a $1,600,000,000 tax increment revenue flow, which you can use half that for a bond issue, assuming, of course, a 4% rate of growth in assessed value over a 45-year period for that 55 acres. But I digress. All right. So, and then there's the problem of community benefits. All right. The city of Oakland is trying to get the A's to pay for community benefits that are covered in both the development agreement, but also not the to date not written infrastructure financing plan, which will be approved by the Public Financing Authority if it existed, but it doesn't either. All right. So the A's can rightfully ask that off-site infrastructure and, quote, community benefits, unquote, be covered to an extent in the infrastructure financing plan and not all at all in the development agreement. Understand? That's the way it's supposed to be done. In other words, there are people who are trying to pour everything into the development agreement. Why? I'll tell you why bluntly, because that's the only thing they understand. A lot of the people that are looking at this are looking at developments of these kinds for the first time and they're laid public. Why are they looking at them? Because it's a big project and involves the A's. You get the idea. Okay. The city really should have buttoned all this up in the first 2 years of the project so as to avoid all of these political complications, but that's another story. All right. Anyway, this is easy to work out if the city of Oakland had the infrastructure financing plan done first. Okay. Since it is not deal directly with ballpark and building construction in the infrastructure financing plan, whereas the development agreement does. You understand what I'm saying? Okay. I can go on and on and on, and I have in this live stream, and will, but that's the main problem. Dave Cavall cannot cover for the city of Oakland here. And it also explains why Las Vegas is the front runner in the matter of a new home for the Oakland A's. Because think about it. We have spent since 2019, when the project manager, Molly Mabry, was hired, I believe, in March 19th of that year. And then the SB 293 Skinner was signed into law October 11th of that year. That's when the process should have started forming the Public Financing Authority first. And the Public Financing Authority authorizes the creation, as well as the consultants, to write the infrastructure financing plan and the meetings with the County of Alameda that will lead to it. None of that was done. We went through 2000 and the emergence of the pandemic. Remember, we started before the pandemic. So this malaise started before the pandemic. The pandemic just sort of, as it tended to do, make everything slow down, right? And then it wasn't until March 27th of 2021 when Rob Manfred, the commissioner of baseball, said, hey, we're looking at this and we're not going to get a ballpark until 2027 or 2028. We're going to look at Las Vegas because you guys are behind schedule. And they were. Key drawings weren't done by the Athletics. The Athletics claimed they were relying on certain documents from the city of Oakland. It was a mess. And so in the middle of that, the commissioner says, you know what? We're going to send Dave Cavall to check out Las Vegas. They'd actually been talking with Las Vegas since 2019 by that point. Anyway, informally, unannounced for the most part. Then Mayor Schaaf at that point says, oh, we've got to do this. We need the financing. We need to talk to the county. That process that led to the July 21st, July 20th, 2021 big meeting with the city and the county and Howard Terminal project managers and everybody else. That meeting that happened in 2021, it should have happened 2 years before, in 2019. The minute SB 293 Skinner was signed into law in October, the city should have already had on its schedule to meet with the county and present the plan and establish the Public Financing Authority and call it the Howard Terminal Public Financing Authority. And then the Public Financing Authority, its first job, aside from deciding who gets on it, sits on it, right? Because you already have the community people have been meeting to that point. And but its first legislative job should have been assigning a date of completion and staffing consultants for the infrastructure financing plan to be done. And within that, and this is what happens when you meet with the county too, or should, you are saying to the county and to the community groups, hey, what projects here should we decide are of community-wide benefit? That's a long list. You could say, for example, a truck stop, just a tick away, if you will, along the Oakland maritime waterfront from Howard Terminal, that helps the maritime community. They've long needed a truck stop. That could be I can go on and on and on. Anyway, subscribe to Zinni62 and bookmark oaklandnewsnowblog.com.